ready to go. I was surprised Daniel didn't really see. He was faking the takedown to set up a lot of shots. That seemed to be his game plan. But I thought he could have just done the takedown in a lot of ways.
Kev, I thought about that a lot because when I watched the fight, and I'm going to give you a little bit of my take on the entirety of the fight to kind of get to this point, particularly into the fifth round when they go into the fifth round and you talk about what happened in the fifth round. First of all, Stipe is huge. And, as much as Daniel Cormier can toss giant men around, he proved it against Josh Barnett, he proved it against tons of heavyweight fighters, picks him up with a high crotch, slings him in the air, like ragdolls him morale. That's a lot of energy. And Stipe proved after the first, Stipe is not a slouch wrestler either. I think Stipe wrestled D1 too. I think he was a D2 champion or something like that actually, but he has a pretty substantial wrestling pedigree as well. So the idea is when Cormier took him down with that single leg in the first round, Stipe hopped right back up again. And those actions take a considerable amount of energy out of the gas tank for you. And the idea is what's to gain from the takedown? Yes, you score some points and maybe you win that round. But what happens now when you have to go 5 rounds and you suck the entirety of your energy out? And to be honest with you, DC and Stipe on the feet were pretty much even. DC was able to come inside and land some good shots. What Stipe did really well was take away Daniel Cormier's moneymakers when he allows an opponent to get that underhook, and then he kind of slips his arm out and turns the corner and fires back with another right-handed punch. Stipe did a great job of controlling the wrist on that, so that became less effective. That's how he knocked him out in the first fight. But DC. Anyway, it's easy to say from the outside looking in, you're an Olympic wrestler. Why don't you just take the guy down?
Yeah.
But we're talking about a 40-year-old man now that has to go 5 rounds, and his MMA IQ is arguably better than ours. I think it's less. I don't think we have to even argue that.
No, I was trying to peer into his mind. When a guy that experienced makes decisions, I assume that I'm missing a piece of the puzzle. It's not like I'm not gonna tell Daniel when to go for a double. I am not going to tell Daniel when he needs to take the fight to the ground. I probably am not qualified to tell him when to wipe his ass. He's probably good to tell me how to do everything in my life. But I also like to ask the question just because it helps my understanding of the game grow. And also, I think everyone is aware of how easily overconfident wrestlers, especially of that caliber, can be going in on a shot and just being on the receiving end of a lot of punishment for a guy that knows he's going to go to that shot. And Stipe, equally high fight IQ, I think he's proven by now. He's got a pretty good read on when a shot's coming. Like his defense was really good. Even when DC was faking, you could see his defense was just there. I do want to talk about the eye pokes though. Yeah. Because they are the only blight on what was otherwise a Hall of Fame fight, Hall of Fame trilogy for a Hall of Fame fight.
When I want to talk about one more thing about takedowns when we get back to it, but we'll talk about the eye poke for a second.
We can finish up on takedowns.
Yeah. So and it kind of leads into the whole narrative of the entirety of the fight, but in particular, that 5th round. So when we start talking about the 5th round, in my eyes, I had to fight even going into the 5th. I had Stipe 2, Cormier 2. I think Cormier won the first round. Stipe won 2 and 3, and then Cormier won the 4th round, being able to evade and move around.
His head movement was crazy.
His head movement was great, and he was able to slip inside and throw punches.
Wait, did Cormier dropped a DC at the end of 3, right?
Into 4, I think it was.
Coming in. It was right at the end. He was getting lit up.
Stipe dropped Cormier at the end of the 2nd round.
Right.
And then the 3rd round was Cormier kind of getting his head back around, getting his head out. And then unfortunately he gets eye poked in the end of the 3rd round when he's going to come on hard in the 4th. And, kudos to DC. He sucked it up in that 4th round. And I think he ended up coming back blind in one eye, not knowing where it is, just, more testament into his greatness and ends up figuring out a way to win that 4th round. And then you're coming in the 5th round. And, DC up until that point, again, if you're looking at the fight even 2-2, like DC still believes he has an opportunity to come back and win that fight on his feet because, hey, he's won the last 2 rounds. The fight is even up. And I believe in his mind, most people thought it was. I don't remember the scorecards, but I think that most of the refs, the judges actually had Stipe winning 4 rounds, but I can't remember that off the top of my head. But anyway, in my mind, in his mind, I think he thinks he's going in the 5th round even, and I thought he was going in the 5th round even myself. So he's thinking, okay, I'm just going to keep with the same game plan. I'm not going to blow myself out with a takedown. I'm going to keep firing punches to win this fight on my terms, standing up, because I can do that. But Stipe just wasn't buckling at all. The point is this: Daniel Cormier is an Olympic wrestler. Unquestionably has one of the greatest wrestling pedigrees in all of modern MMA. You are going into the 5th round tied 2-2. You need to win this round in order to solidify your place in history as the greatest combat fighter of all time. Definitely the greatest heavyweight of all time. I still don't understand why he doesn't say, I'm going to take him down, come hell or high water. I'm going to suffer anyway. Get the takedown, try to hold him down, because Stipe's tired too at this point. And granted, he has the heart of a champion. But if I need to win a fight, yes, I'm a good striker, but I am a world-class wrestler. Get the takedown, win the fight, game over. I was surprised to see him not attempt a shot in that 5th round.
Do you think he was unbalanced because of being blind? Now is a good point to talk about the eye pokes, I think, because so first eye poke of the evening, DC eye poke Stipe.
Right.
So that was, like, given his criticisms of John Jones, I thought that was really that was interesting, and it was very clear it was accidental. He looked pissed, like disappointed in himself that happened, and he's a professional. He's not trying to do that. How did you think that affected Stipe early on?
Well, I mean, you got to go back to the history of the fights too, because the first fight, the big controversy was Stipe got eye poked. The referee didn't catch it. Then he gets knocked out shortly after with the right hand. And they're saying that, the controversy was Stipe still had an opportunity to clear his eye out, gets knocked out. Here we go. So DC and him already have a history of poking each other in the eye. So in the first couple of rounds, when DC pokes Cormier or Stipe in the eye, we're already starting to think, oh, here we go again. Here comes the controversy. Here comes the talk. Because Daniel Cormier, it's rampant in MMA. Guys try to, kind of zombie, like Frankenstein, their hands out there and paw with jabs, and they do it with their hands open. They're not supposed to do that. Referees tell them straight up, don't do that because you poke people in the eyes. But it happens because you're trying to grab at the same time you're trying to punch, and sometimes fingers go in eyeballs. It just happens. So when Stipe gets poked in the eye, of course he's thinking, this sucks. It's time to what's going on here? This is horrible. DC did this to me again. It's going to happen again. You have those mental roller coaster rides. But it's your job as a fighter. It happens. That's the game. The referee didn't see it. Are you going to whine and say, man, the ref didn't see it, that's why I lost? Or are you going to push through it and move on? And I think both fighters, DC in particular, man, his eye was mangled.
It was, that post-fight was uncomfortable just because of how clearly damaged his retina was. And I think it was later revealed that he went to the hospital for a detached retina. And
was it a detached retina? That's horrible.
Yeah, he had surgery. It was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. It's horrible.
And I kudos to him for still doing the post-fight interview. I'd probably just want to make sure I'm not blind forever.
But I will propose this statement in regards to the eye poke, in regards to DC's ability to overcome that obstacle and continue to fight. You want to be the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time. You want to solidify yourself in history as this great, amazing warrior that you are. Are you going to allow it's a shame. It's sad that it had to happen in this fight. It's very unfortunate that it had to happen in this fight. I personally believe that DC found the intestinal fortitude inside of him to say, I want this bad enough to not allow this to deter me, to change my will to win and suck my will to win away from me and find an excuse deep down inside of my heart, because that's just the type of guy he is. You don't get to the Olympics by finding excuses to lose. You adapt and overcome. Is it unfortunate to happen? Yes. But at the end of the day, if you want to be the greatest in the world at something, you cannot allow unforeseen circumstances to derail your game plan to keep you from pursuing that goal.
And I think you saw that and both of them did. They ate it up and they went forward. I think Stipe handled his eye injury just as well, although it was not as bad. It was very clearly one eye poke was worse than the other.